Technical difficulties rule the day once again on Tuesday, October 22nd. Thank you guys for tuning in. Polar Packers podcast. We'll let some of these folks round into the room. I think I'm going to just pull up my live stream, make sure that this thing is actually going. Once again, it looks like it is. Once again, I have had nothing but problems when it comes to the technical side of getting these live streams to work. And I got to figure this one out real quick because there's some really cool live streams, obviously, in the YouTube world, where you can put like little notifications on the bottom when people subscribe, and you have the whole comment section on the right side. So I definitely need to figure out that aspect of it. See, I'm getting error messages up the yin yang, but I'm looking down at my phone, and I'm seeing what looks like a live video to the max. I don't know what's up with that. So. Regardless, Green Bay comes away once again with a huge victory over the Oakland Raiders. And I know I only got 5 views right now, 6 streamers. But yeah, what a huge win. 42-24. A lot of garbage time at the end of that game. How often are you going to see Tim Boyle play this season? Hopefully a lot, because if Tim Boyle is in the game, that means that we are obviously up huge on the competition. And once Oakland put in their backup, it was pretty much all smooth sailing from there. So Aaron brought back the belt. I think that's the biggest highlight for me of this last week's game, Week 7 victory, 6-1 Packers. Finally, I've been waiting for Aaron Rodgers to bring back the belt. That has been a huge talking point. He finished the game with a perfect passer rating, 429 yards, 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. He did have that lone one rushing touchdown, which is something great to see. And when he rushes the ball, he puts on the belt. And I played Dangerous by Big Data, and I passed out jello shots. It's a great time. What's up, guys? I got my wife commenting. I got a couple comments in there. But yeah, those five passing touchdowns, 5 different receivers. He had a total of 8 receivers that he threw to that had multiple receptions throughout the game. So that's a huge, talking point. I didn't think... It's crazy. I do all this research. I kind of look at what Oakland brings to the table. I look at the trend that the Packers have had, and they have really thrown me off guard, quite frankly, the entire year so far. You figure that the key to victory would be for the Packers to get some run game action going. And, to a point, that's important. I think that was the thing that Oakland knew that they could stop us on, and they did a very good job stopping us on that run game. But we didn't know if we were going to have MVS. We didn't know if we were going to have Allison. Both these guys become game-time decisions, decide to play. 8 different receivers get multiple catches. He was throwing that ball over the place. He had Danny Vitale with 2 catches. Jimmy Graham. Just name a running back or a receiver. It seemed like they caught the ball. Lazard, even though he had that wide open drop, he had a beautiful catch down there in the end zone. So you got to love what we got from these receivers. When Devontae Adams gets back, holy moly, everything's going to get dangerous. But yeah, fun fact for you guys in a little bit of digging that I hear. So this is the first time in the Packers' long history, so since 1919 is the official. I have the banner around here. It's the first time in the Packers' long history that they've had a quarterback with a perfect passer rating. Not entirely sure how they come up with those statistics. You can Google it. They'll tell you how they come up with those statistics. But there's only 2 teams left in the NFL that have not had a quarterback with a perfect passer rating, and that's the Jaguars and that is the Panthers. And that is remarkable because both of those teams were introduced or expanded into the league back in 1995. And the fact that the Packers, all the way, the oldest organization, in the NFL, couldn't get a perfect passer rating until Aaron Rodgers did on Sunday. We're talking about the Brett Favre era. We're talking about the Bart Starr back. They didn't keep track of it back then, but that's just absolutely crazy. Like I said, both those teams, the Jaguars and the Panthers, entered the league in 1995. And so kudos to Aaron Rodgers. If he's going to be playing like that, the defense doesn't need to be stellar, doesn't need to be lights out by any means. But yeah, absolutely awesome. Get some comments rolling in here right now. What did you blow up into a poster? I can see and hear you. Did you blow me up into a poster? Damn, that's awfully brave of you. Thank you for that. If that's what you meant, I'm just assuming that's what you meant. On the other side of the football, though, we have to talk about the defense. I don't think that the defense looked all that great on Sunday. And I think the reason why nobody's really talking about it is because Aaron Rodgers did have the day that he did have. And don't let the scoreboard fool you. It was 42-24 was the final score. The turnover ratio did win in our favor between Derek Carr fumbling in the end zone and then Kevin King coming away with an interception late in the game. But Rodgers and the offense are completely the people who get all the credit, or who should get all the credit for the Packers coming away with that victory. It's back and forth, quite frankly, all the way throughout that first half. I mean, if it was a stop here, it was a stop there. If it was a touchdown, it was a touchdown, back and forth. And Oakland probably should have entered halftime with a 17-10 lead, but that was easily the biggest play and the most game-changing moment of that game. It completely took the wind out of the sails for the Oakland Raiders. Is a 21-point swing. Oakland did not get the ball back until 3 minutes into the third quarter. So instead of going up 17-14 at halftime, the next time they get the ball, they're down 28-10. And there was just no looking back from that point. The Packers were able to continue to put up points. Absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, there's no looking back from that point. But looking at the offense of Oakland, I do just want to run over this real quick. So Josh Jacobs had 124 yards off of 21 carries, so they were not able to really slow him down by any means. And he missed a good chunk of that late first quarter with that shoulder injury. Did come back in the game. Tight end Darren Waller had 126 yards off of 7 receptions, had 2 touchdowns. And Derek Carr threw for 293 yards. That's the most yards he's put up this season. It's the first time since week 1 that he's thrown more than 250 yards, so we couldn't slow down Carr. We couldn't really stop the running game. I think Blake Martinez in general, watching the game back this afternoon, he didn't really play that great of a game. He was missing tackles, which is very, I guess not normal for Aaron Rodgers. But, the media on Monday refers to this as a bend but not break defense. When I hear that, I think of a Dom Capers defense. I don't want to be thinking of Dom Capers defense as the Mike Pettin defense. Maybe they're getting in a little bit of a funk right now. Too early to say, but it's something that I'm definitely keeping my eye on. I think when Darnell Savage makes his way back on the field, hopefully he gets healthy soon, because he is definitely the X factor, the game-changing guy that you need in the backfield. So that's just some of my thoughts. I'll have a full, kind of recap of it in Friday's video. But let's get to some comments here. Let's hear what some of you guys are saying. Some of you beautiful people that tune into this, I appreciate it so much. So they will never learn not to mock the belt. It'll never work out. Yeah, that's true. But they got to Rodgers at some point very early on in that game, and Oakland decided to mock the belt. And once you do that, that is like the worst juju that you can throw upon yourself. So don't do that. Absolutely don't do that. Hello, Aaron Rodgers. Thank you for tuning in. Do you think the D-line is weak inside? Well, Kenny Clark was suffering with a little bit of an injury heading into the game. He was listed on the injury report. He had that knee injury. Took, I believe, Thursday off of practice because last week was a little bit weird with their Monday Night Football game. And then he did leave the game at one point because of his injury. So, I think Kenny Clark is a huge piece to the interior of that defensive line. Quite frankly, I think Dean Lowry has stepped up quite a bit the last couple of weeks. I think he's had some really good performances. I haven't heard Montravius Adams' name called a whole lot. And then, like I said, factor in, I know he's not part of the D-line, but you factor in Blake Martinez. You'd like to see a little bit more out of him, or not more out of him, but I think he just had an off day. He plays at such a high level. He tackles everything in sight. But I'm not too worried about that defensive line. If Mike Daniels is in there, he'd probably be hurt because look at him out there in Detroit. But it's a work in progress. I think our defensive line has the players that it needs. I think you have, obviously, if you want to count your edge rushers and Za'Darius and Preston Smith, they're absolutely beasts. But I think we just got to get better, continue to work at it, chip away at it. We played some really tough running backs so far, very early on in this season. So what else we got out there? Kyle Stitchin. What if we see a Brady versus Rodgers Super Bowl for the 100th season? Could settle the GOAT debate. No, there's 2 possible outcomes when it comes to the Super Bowl. If the Packers make it, right? They're either going to play the New England Patriots, which essentially just have to win 2 tough games to make their way to the Super Bowl because they're in the weakest division and they have the easiest schedule, hands down. But I think a more historic, if you want to talk about the 100th season of the NFL, I think Packers versus the Chiefs would be absolutely stellar to catch. We're talking about the first Super Bowl ever. You'd have, Rodgers, who is coming into, a veteran status, who might be a little bit on the back end, according to some people, but they're not talking about that anymore after his performance on Sunday. And then you have Patrick Mahomes, who is completely just kind of shook up the NFL and has played, he'll get better. He'll be back hopefully in 3 to 4 weeks. I'm honestly disappointed that he's not playing on Sunday. I'm disappointed and happy because I think with him out, that's going to benefit the Packers obviously and give us another chance to continue this win streak that we are on. But man, I'd love to see Aaron Rodgers face Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, that's how it's going to line up. If the Packers can make their way to the Super Bowl, they have to get through the Saints, they have to get through the Seahawks, they have to get through the Niners. We don't even know what we have of the Niners yet. I mean, it's very early in the season. We're going to be playing San Francisco in a couple weeks. But that NFC, I mean, it's such a tough conference. Such a tough conference. But if they make it to the Super Bowl, they're either playing the Patriots or they're playing the Chiefs. The Ravens look good, but they're not. It's not their year. It's not their year. Is it time to move on from Josh Jackson? Thanks for asking that question, Aiden. It is probably too early to move on from Josh Jackson. So it's only his sophomore year. But I did notice this. So when we talk about the Packers and the Oakland Raiders pulling out their players late in the game, we saw a lot more of Josh Jackson playing that number 1 or number 2 cornerback position, and he didn't play very well. He's not, kind of that active player that you see in the starting defense, but I don't really know what that means or what that takeaway is. I'm just wondering if he's kind of hurting with confidence. You figure that, him and Alexander were both drafted last year, and those guys kind of had that brotherhood. Well, now that isn't really a thing anymore. You look at Kevin King and Alexander. If I'm going to be moving on from anybody, it's probably going to be Kevin King, because I just don't see a whole lot that I love out of him. Yeah, he got that pick in the end zone, but he's been kind of giving up plays left and right, and I don't know why he's constantly getting beat. He should not be getting beat. Yeah, feel free. Like I said, guys, we're up to 313 viewers. We're, 12 minutes into this thing. Again, it's a small crowd. This thing is growing, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, checking it out. I think there's probably a mix-up because I'm missing some names, like some people that have tuned in every week that are my boys in that comment section. So maybe they'll tune in here in a little bit. But don't get me wrong, this defense could still be a Super Bowl caliber defense. I talked down on them a little bit, but through 7 weeks, the Packers defense does rank 9th in points allowed in the league. They're tied for 4th in takeaways, which is absolutely respectable. They were tied for 1st 2 weeks ago, so that's gone down. That Detroit Lions game didn't help us whatsoever. We're tied for 12th in sacks, as I bite my tongue. That's another thing. We haven't seen a whole lot of pressure or sacks done by the Smith twins by any means, so that needs to be something that we definitely improve on. We're tied 9th in the red zone, and I think our red zone defense, when we talk about a bend but not break defense, which I'm not a huge fan or component of saying that, but that's what we kind of have right now. They had that huge stop with 11 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. Oakland's down 35-17. They had a wide open streaking tight end. I can't remember if it was Waller or not, but he got the ball all the way down to the 2-yard line. It's 1st and goal on the 2. The Packers do manage to stop them. B.J. Goodson just makes a great hit at the goal line on 4th down on the 1-yard line, stopping Jacobs' dive over the top. It was a beautiful play. Great job. So that part of that defense, or that red zone defense. And then we talk about the next possession. Kevin King does come away with that interception that Adrian Amos tips away with his fingers, which definitely benefits things. So they came up big in the clutch. They have a way of giving up a lot of yards. I mean, if we look at, I had that written down here somewhere. I mean, they gave up, where is it? Oakland had a total of 484 total yards. And we talk about how stellar Green Bay's offense was. Well, Green Bay had a 481 yards. So Oakland put up more yards statistically. They put up more rushing yards. They had a receiver with more receiving yards. Not as many receivers, but definitely, I mean, it's a cause for concern when we're talking about this defense. I want them to step up. I want to see a full game. If we can get an Aaron Rodgers offense that we saw on Sunday mixed with a Packers defense that we saw against the Broncos, the Vikings, the Bears very early on in the season, that's unstoppable right there. That is a Super Bowl winning team. Definitely something that we need to look forward to. Thoughts on when Rodgers may retire? Why are we talking about Rodgers' retirement? Now, I did have a video that you can check out. So if you subscribe, obviously subscribe if you like the content, or if you're a huge Packers fan. This thing's only going to get better. It's a little bit shaky and rough around the edges right now, but I did a video back in, I think it was June timeframe, where is it time to move on, or Life After Rodgers, I believe was the title. And Rodgers is still young. He's 35 years old, going to be 36 here in a couple months. You look at Tom Brady in his career, 43, 44 years old. He's still playing at a high level. I think that's something that we look for with Rodgers. Absolutely. I mean, I don't think he retires anytime soon. He's locked up, I believe, through the 2022-2023 season. Don't quote me on that. Could be 24. But he's locked up for the next couple of years. And this whole Matt LaFleur coach and this locker room, I think, is definitely just revitalized not only him, but the rest of that entire organization. It's not stale anymore. It's a lot of fun to play. He talks about how much fun it is to play. I don't see him retiring anytime soon, especially if they continue to win. And this, I mean, you have Zadarius and Preston Smith for 4 years. You have Amos for 4 years. You're going to have Aaron Jones, who continues to get better. I think Devontae Adams will probably retire before Aaron Rodgers retires, but we have to look at potential receivers there. I don't see Aaron Rodgers going anywhere anytime soon. That makes me happy because I look at teams like the Jets or teams that have failed to find themselves a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, and it is just painful to watch some of those games out there. So what else we got out there? 3 interceptions this season. You can say he gets beat, but he is constant when getting a turnover. Now, is he? So you might be right. So we'll go off of your 3 turnovers that Kevin King has. And man, am I going to become a Kevin King hater? I don't know. I still think that they should have drafted T.J. Watt over Kevin King, but that's a whole nother tangent for a different day. But of his 3 interceptions this season, one of them against Detroit was straight up rape. I mean, he was all over that receiver. It should have been called pass interference, but it wasn't called pass interference. That's just how it goes. So he comes away with an interception there. And then his second interception, which came on Sunday against Oakland, he didn't really he made a play, but like I said, Amos is the one that tipped it up in the air and made it an easy catch for him to take in. I'd say 2 out of those 3 were questionable interceptions. I can't even think of what his third one was, but yeah, I mean, he's can improve. I'm not giving up on Kevin King. I just want to see him be a shutdown type of corner like we see out of Jair Alexander, which he gives up passes occasionally, but he doesn't have the swagger. He doesn't have the swagger like Alexander has. Opinions on inside linebacker. Well, I absolutely love Blake Martinez. I'm a huge Martinez fan. I probably have a jersey laying around here somewhere that I can show you that I'm a Martinez fan. I think he's a guy that you definitely want to sign long term. Keep him as that middle of the linebacker, inside linebacker character. And you don't know what we have out of Oren Burks quite yet. So he struggled last year with injuries. He's struggled early on this season with injuries. He's finally kind of getting back into the swing of things. It's really nice to see him out there making tackles. I like those 2 guys in particular. Could we add depth there? Absolutely. I think there's areas throughout that entire field that we could add depth to, but we're also forgetting about Ty Summers. Now, we did draft Ty late in the draft this past year. He looks like a really good up and coming player that will definitely get his chances as the roster continues to shuffle throughout the years. But I think that you could use possibly one more fill-in where you can kind of have 4 solid guys that you can kind of interchange and put in and out of the game. But you look at Martinez. I mean, he's led or tied the league or been in the top 2-3 in tackles every single year. He doesn't miss tackles very often, and that's why I criticize him a little bit for some of the missed tackles that he had on Sunday. It's just a kind of an off game for Blake Martinez. MVS had 2 catches, 133 yards. I don't know if I messed up on that, man. I knew he had 2 catches for 133 yards. He had a stellar game. He had that beautiful touchdown down the sideline. I mean, he put together a great performance, 100%. How much of an impact, this one's from Aiden once again, how much of an impact will Ryan Grant have this season? I watched his highlights, and I think he's kind of underrated. Well, highlights are an interesting thing. If you're looking at college football highlights, they can be really deceiving just because the caliber of opponents that you're going up against don't always line up 100% with what you get in the NFL. I don't think Ryan Grant is going to have a huge impact or really an impact at all. This is going to kind of go hand in hand with the Tremon Smith signing that we had a couple weeks ago that we brought him on and we let Trevor Davis go to Oakland, which is now in hindsight kind of a frustrating thing with the lack of depth that we have at wide receiver. But I don't think Ryan Grant is going to be, anything that we write home about. It's probably going to be really low on that depth chart. Probably ahead of Shepard because Shepard is going to be recovering from a serious bounce back game down there in Detroit. But I think they brought Ryan Grant on unsure of, obviously Adams was out, and then we didn't know what we had from MVS and Allison. I think they were able to find someone that had some raw skill to him, in which case Ryan Grant has that, but I don't think he makes an impact really quite at all in this current season. We'll see what the offseason brings, and we'll see if injuries play a pivotal role and that we need to kind of push him more into it. But it's all about building trust with Aaron Rodgers. That's what so many of these guys work for and work hard at when it comes to practice. You obviously look at the trust that, Lazard was able to bestow, or Rodgers was able to bestow upon Lazard, or however you want to word that. Lazard earned Rodgers' trust really quick, really easily. Maybe not easily. He probably worked really hard for it, but that's a tough thing to do, and I don't think Ryan Grant is quite there when it comes to what we'll see out of him. But not to say he's not a talented player, but I don't see him making that big of an impact. Ryan Buckster just tuned in, so I'm not sure what you've talked about already, but Lazard. That's right. I mean, Lazard, not a great fantasy pickup. Now, thankfully, one of my good friends picked up Lazard out of a foolish move, and I somehow managed to find Aaron Rodgers on my fantasy team on late Saturday night. So you can only imagine how great my Sunday was in general with a huge Packers win and just a dominant fantasy football day. But yeah, I mean, Lazard, I absolutely love the guy. It's fun. He's kind of jumped ahead, in my opinion, of Kumaro as that wide receiver that you just love to cheer for, love to root for. Just a big body. He came down on that sideline and caught that ball, landed his ass right inside of the field. It was a beautiful catch, beautiful play, and that was after he dropped a wide open one along the seam a couple plays earlier. So he stepped up big, and I'm excited to see what they do with him. I'll be even more interested to see how they utilize him, or if they utilize him when Adams does come back, when Adams is healthy, and we have our number one wide receiver, which we've been seeking for the last couple weeks now. Any players you hope Green Bay picks up in the draft? I have to apologize. I'm not huge into college football. I do pay attention to the draft when the draft comes along, and it's mainly all about mock drafts and what the projected best players are and the combine and all that stuff. I kind of keep an eye on that. I mean, if you look at some of these pre-mock drafts, or you look at, possibly you're looking at Green Bay getting a late first-round pick, just with the way the season's shaking out. So probably anywhere from 25 to 32. Hopefully it's 32. That means you win a Super Bowl. But you can't really sleep on Taylor of the Wisconsin Badgers. I mean, if you bring in another running back of that caliber, holy cow, would the Packers offense just be completely unstoppable. Now, I love the 1-2 punch that we have with both Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, but if you can get someone like that, like Taylor from the Badgers, I think that would be absolutely insane. I don't think you draft a wide receiver in the first round. I think that's foolish, because it's been proven time and time again that you draft receivers later in the draft and they turn out to be great performers for you. I don't think you draft a quarterback. I think you could kind of keep holding off on that as long as you can. But it's going to come back to that defense again. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do as far as filling in depth. But it's really funny how you guys like to talk about off seasons and drafts and Rodgers' retirement. We're heading to week 8, guys, and the Packers are 6-1. You got to be excited about that, don't you? Got to be. I can hear my echo on the TV upstairs. I think my wife is watching. Thank you for watching. What else we got out there? What happened to Tremont Smith, the kick returner, punt returner from the Chiefs? By the way, I'm drinking Red Stag and Coke tonight, in case you guys are drinking along at home or just curious what my beverages are for this particular live stream. So they let Smith go because they wanted to bring Evan Bayless to the team and or to the active roster. So they just let him go. I don't think they saw a whole lot of that they wanted to keep out of him. It was kind of an interesting signing, but something that we can kind of say that we've seen a lot from Gutekunst this last 2 years is that they do bring in players just to maybe see if they're a flash in the pan or if it's someone that can contribute to the team. But they obviously didn't see anything that they liked out of him. I thought that it was a great pickup. I thought he was going to be something that we could add to our special teams, which our special teams is still a huge work in progress and definitely the weakest link when we talk about all three phases of the game. But yeah, they didn't keep him around. Moved on from him. It was a short-lived career in Green Bay. And it could be the same thing for Ryan Grant as well. Thoughts on LaFleur shutting down sack celebrations? Well, he didn't, Ryan. Now, if you kept up with the news, and I can talk crap to you because I personally know you, but if you keep up with the news, he didn't shut him down. He originally did, and then he talked to Z and Preston Smith and told those guys that, do your celebrations, go out there, have fun, keep it short, don't get crazy with it, but he did not completely ban those sack celebrations, which is awesome. I mean, when you talk about the defense running to the end zone and doing their crazy things when they get turnovers, and you talk about these sack celebrations, they have one in process or written up that they want to do, but they didn't really get to Derek Carr whatsoever on Sunday. So I don't think We'll have to wait until Kansas City, hopefully, to see what their next sack celebration is going to be. He didn't shut them down. Shut long ones down, which is fine. Sorry, you do not suck, Ryan. Do not take that personally. So yeah, what we got here? We're 25 minutes in. Not a ton of viewers tonight, but again, thank you guys for tuning in. I had technical difficulties up the yin yang to start off, but we'll see. We'll see if anybody else kind of jumps in here. I don't know if I could send out notifications or not, but ask your questions. Give me some of your guys' feedback. Let me know what you think of the Packers going in to Week 8. Should we talk about the Chiefs game? Should we kind of shift our thoughts towards that Patrick Mahomes-less Kansas City team and what we think will come of that matchup? I think that wouldn't be a bad place to talk. Yeah, I never wish for injuries. No, I did. You might have tuned in a little bit late, but yes, you hate to see someone. It's the same thing. Well, at least I imagine it's the same thing. If you're not a Packers fan, you see Aaron Rodgers go out of the game or go out for the season or go out for a period of time. It's no fun to see great players in the NFL, especially when there's such a short season. It's only 16 weeks or so. You don't like to see these star players get injured at any point. But I am definitely relieved that Mahomes won't be playing. I was happy that he was getting his ankle messed up like the previous 2 weeks, because I'm like, okay, he's going to be crippled. He's not going to be that mobile, but he'll still be out in the field and it will still be a good game. Now that he's completely out of the game, you have to give the nod to Green Bay. You have to love what our next couple weeks look like. You look at a banged up Chiefs team, but they still have a defense, so don't sleep on that defense. We'll talk about that more on Friday. You look at that Chargers team, which we're going to LA, but that's essentially going to be a home game for Green Bay with a number of Packer fans that I'm sure will fill up that stadium. And then really our toughest game before the bye week is probably that Panthers game, because you have to worry about Christian McCaffrey, and then you also have to wonder if Cam Newton's going to come back and really where that team's going to sit. They've been hot as of late, so that's probably of the next 3 games, that's the one that's kind of jumping out at me as one that could really be a true battle down to the wire, back and forth type of game. Do the Chiefs have a good O-line? Because we wouldn't sack Carr. Now, to answer your question in a roundabout way, Oakland has a phenomenal offensive line. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league, arguably. You look at what Josh Jacobs has been able to do at that running back position behind that line, and then you do look at the amount of time that Carr has. This wasn't so much that the defense couldn't get pressure on Derek Carr from a defensive fault, but it was so much that the offensive line played absolutely phenomenal. And it's just hard to get to Carr. He's got a lot of time to throw that ball. And then he has time to scramble out to the side and fumble it into the end zone and turn it over and make it a great victory for the Packers. The Chiefs have a lot of offensive weapons, so our D needs to start off hot. I think anytime you start off on the road, it's going to be Sunday Night Football. You're on the road. Arrowhead is one of the loudest stadiums, if not the loudest stadium in the NFL. It's going to be crucial that we definitely get out to a hot start on Sunday night, that we take any sort of electricity out of that stadium, and really get to the quarterback. We're talking about a backup quarterback that's going into that game. There's a lot of pressure on his shoulders just because the expectations for the Chiefs are that, they're going to the playoffs, that they are a Super Bowl contender, and I don't disagree with those whatsoever. So you have a backup quarterback a la Brett Hundley from a couple seasons ago that just has to essentially carry them through the next couple of weeks, hopefully to their bye week. And it's not a Teddy Bridgewater situation like you have down there in New Orleans, where he's just completely kept that team in the thick of things. They're still considered one of the best teams in the league, and they don't even have Drew Brees under center. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not the Chiefs will come out with that type of offense. They do have a lot of weapons, but at the end of the day, it is a quarterback league, and it's going to really boil down to if we can get pressure on him, if we can force him to make mistakes. You're going to probably see a lot of shiftiness and mind games played by Dom Capers. Probably a lot of blitzes on third down just to bring the pressure and force him to get the ball out quick. It could be turnover central if he is able to accomplish all those things that I just went over. But yeah, the D definitely needs to start off strong. I don't think Adams will play once again, nor do I think you should play him if there's any question marks behind it. Let's just kind of see how long we can kind of keep this train chugging along. But you also have to be mindful the Vikings are in your rearview mirror sitting there at 5-2, and they're equally looking. They have completely did a 180 from 3 weeks ago when everybody was questioning Kirk Cousins and his capabilities. He'll find a way to suck it up and blow it for the Vikings, but it's just a matter of time. We'll have to wait patiently until that happens. Over under 5 touchdowns for the GOAT. Are we talking about the Chiefs? I'll say under. I mean, games that happen on Sunday are completely rare. 5 touchdowns, another rushing touchdown, 6 total touchdowns, all touched Aaron Rodgers' hand at some point throughout that play. It's very rare to go out there and score 5 touchdowns on a consistent basis, unless you are Patrick Mahomes last season and early on this season. But I do see it under. I'm seeing probably 3 touchdowns, maybe even 2 touchdowns. I do think that the running game will once again get a revitalization against the Chiefs, because it's going to boil down to that time of possession standpoint again, and really just trying to keep their defense kind of tired and keep any sort of momentum from building on that offensive side of the ball with a backup quarterback in those situations. I think we will rely more on the run to win this week. Man, I think I just answered that question. Yeah, I do think we will. The question is run or the pass. I think we will rely more on the run. I think you're going to be looking a lot of handoffs to Aaron Jones, a lot to Williams. I think combined they will easily be somewhere over 120, 130 yards rushing, which they didn't accomplish on Sunday against the Raiders. They only finished with like 60, 65 yards in the run game, so it was pretty lackluster performance from that Packers run offense. But I think that they will take that. They'll take all the focus from the pass to the run. I think Aaron Rodgers will still do magical things when he needs to, but all the pressure doesn't have to sit on his shoulders. I think really what it boils down to is we got to get. I want to get Savage back on the field, and I want to see that defense be dominant like they were very early on. There are some excuses, but this should be a good defensive performance on Sunday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. Any idea when Adams will be back? Well, you're looking for some insider information that nobody knows, but rumor mill. I mean, I think if Patrick Mahomes plays on Sunday, I think the Packers are more inclined to put Adams out there. It'll be interesting to see if he practices this week. They did not have practice on Monday. They did not have practice today. That is Tuesday. And I don't really see a rush to get him back. I think looking at the Chargers game coming up next week, I think you keep him out. I think you bring him back possibly against the Panthers. Yeah, the bye week is 1 week after that, but if you bring him back against the Panthers, you give him some reps, you at least suit him up, get him on the sideline, get him involved in a couple plays, see how it feels. Don't go crazy with him. You have the bye week, and then you look at that final stretch. We come out of that bye week and we play the 49ers, and you definitely want to have a healthy Devontae Adams going up against the 49ers, because that is going to really start to pick away at what that 1 or 2 seed is going to look like. We don't play the Saints. We don't have the privilege of knocking off the Saints or owning that tiebreaker or anything like that. So it's really going to boil down to that San Francisco game if we can own a tiebreaker and get some home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Is the Adams injury a blessing in disguise? That's one way to look at it. So this has been a great. I mean, anytime that you can get, you look at a star wide receiver like Devontae Adams. I won't say he's top 5, top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, just with his route running and his catching ability and his safety blanket ability for Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, I think when you can afford to lose him for a couple games, and you can kind of get some of these other guys some experience, some more throws thrown to a Lazard, some more throws thrown to MVS or Allison. This is definitely, if you want to call it a blessing in disguise, sure, because we don't know how soon Adams will be back, and we don't know once he gets back if that thing won't be re-aggravated. It could, this is something that a ligament injury does occasionally require surgery, so this could put him out longer. He could be playing in pain for a lot of the offseason, but you definitely want to see what we have at our wide receiver depth. We entered the season with only 5-6 wide receivers on that roster. We only have 5 healthy wide receivers right now. We want to get that 6th one back. So I look at it as a blessing in disguise. I mean, if we had lost 2 of the last 3 games or anything like that, it's not a blessing. A win's a win. You want to keep winning in the NFL, especially when the race is as tight as it is in the NFC between the Saints and Seattle. I'm so glad Seattle lost, but Saints, Seattle, 49ers, the Vikings, there's a lot of good talent, and you got to come away with the win first and foremost. I think the Bears will pique some interest in Cam Newton. I have not heard that rumor float around once, but man, I hope so. I hope they have interest in Cam Newton, because I don't think Cam Newton's all that great of a quarterback, and that would just continue the streak of Chicago spending money on mediocre quarterbacks that have not proven themselves, and that makes for a wonderful Packers season and a very happy me. What else we got there? I feel the same way. I'd rather get him back 100%. And then we have Charlie Rob 13 chiming in. I don't think I've seen a comment from you tonight. So what are the chances of Rodgers winning MVP? Whew. I think they're pretty good. So let's look at some candidates right now. You have Tom Brady. Who's he playing? I don't really know. I mean, don't give it to Tom Brady. Don't do that. But you look at, reigning MVP Patrick Mahomes, who was off to a very great start this season. If he doesn't get hurt, he's the clear forerunner when it comes to what you have at that MVP race through these early 7 weeks. You look at a guy like Drew Brees, who had the Saints in general had an amazing season last year, and even the year prior to that. But with his injury, that kind of takes him out of that MVP running because he missed multiple weeks of playing time. From the quarterback side, those are kind of your big names that jump out. Outside that, you have Russell Wilson. How could I forget about Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson has played absolutely phenomenal throughout this early part, or just through the season so far. He has those 2 losses, and it's only going to boil down to how many wins do these teams end up with. But that's probably what I'm looking at right now. In my opinion, it's probably between Rodgers and Russell Wilson if you're looking at quarterbacks. And then if you're looking at any other offensive players, it's obviously has to go to Antonio Brown. He's been outstanding so far through his couple. He's not in the league anymore. Yeah, I just had to throw Antonio. You can't have a live stream without throwing Antonio Brown somewhere in the conversation. So what do we got? We're 37 minutes in. I only do these for about 40 to 45 minutes. So if you guys want to chime in any more, we're going to take some of the last questions of the evening. My drink is getting low. My eyes are getting heavy. My throat is getting hoarse. What else we got? Think Jimmy Graham comes back next year, or do we begin to give our younger tight ends heavier roles? I don't think Jimmy Graham comes back next year. And I looked at his performance. Now, his performance on Sunday, that looked like old Jimmy Graham. That was a great game for him. That gives me a lot of hope for what he can bring to this passing game as the season progresses. And Rodgers has talked about this too in his press conferences. LaFleur has talked about that it's a work in progress. As the communication between the coach and the quarterback continues to improve, we will see this offense continue to fire on all cylinders and put performances out there. Now, they don't want to actually say that they're going to be putting up 30 to 40 points a game, because the NFL has a way of making you humble, and they just don't want to put themselves in that corner. It's kind of like the Doug Peterson going out there and saying, we're going to go down to Dallas and beat Dallas, and you actually get your ass handed to you on all levels. So we don't want to see that happen. But what I do think is that Jimmy Graham, with the performance he had on Sunday, that's going to boost some confidence. I would love to see him get himself a Super Bowl. I mean, if we're going to get Jimmy Graham a Super Bowl, the guy definitely deserves it. He's a all-pro player. He had great careers in New Orleans. He had a great career in Seattle. He came to Green Bay because he wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers, and I would love nothing more than to give this guy a Super Bowl ring so he can ride off into the sunset and forever be remembered as a Packers Super Bowl winning tight end. But he's getting paid a lot of money. We're looking at contracts by Kenny Clark. We're looking at Blake Martinez. We're looking at, of course, free agent signings, draft class. There's a lot of moving pieces, and Jimmy Graham takes up a lot of the cap space. And if he's going to be a guy that only comes away with 3-4 catches a game, a touchdown here and there, 40 to 60 yards, I don't see, that's not a $10 million a year contract. Now, maybe they restructure it. Maybe if Green Bay, if I rub into my crystal ball and we look at Green Bay making it all the way to the NFC Championship game and coming just short of the Super Bowl, or just coming short to winning a Super Bowl, maybe they restructure his contract because he loves the atmosphere. He wants to play with Rodgers. He feels like he can get a ring there. But he's definitely, let's just put it this way. Jimmy Graham does not come back next year on his current contract, and we will leave it like that. I think McCaffrey has a solid chance. I would agree with that. I mean, from the running back standpoint, he's probably the only running back that really jumps out for your MVP. We got a couple Go Pack Goes. We have a pansy comment from Ryan because he's just lighting up the comment section with tomfoolery. But yeah, last remaining questions. We'll say 4 minutes to go. If you guys want to provide some feedback as far as the overall channel, what you'd like to see more content to, feel free to comment that down below. I've had some feedback that my videos on Fridays are too long. They range anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes. I have a lot to talk about. I find myself getting into a zone. I can't even believe 40 minutes went by just now. But if you guys really feel like those should be shorter, if you'd like condensed videos, if you'd like different things for me to do on these videos, definitely chime in. But yeah, we gotta love where we sit right now, 6-1. If I mean, let's just talk about LaFleur. I mean, this guy, gotta love him. I mean, not only is he a stud in his looks category, but he's also a stud in what he's been able to do with this Packers team that had all the pieces, and they wasted so many of Rodgers' years. But you look at what he's been able to do for this team, to have such a strong start, to be 6-1, to have this locker room and everything going. I love this new head coach. Him too. Just to see him get himself a Super Bowl would be absolutely phenomenal. So many of these guys deserve it. They're great people, great individuals. They love, they love football, and they're just really good at what they do. You want a record prediction? I had this one come up at work the other day, so I'm going to put us at 13-3. So there's a couple games, 13-3, 12-4. I kind of go back and forth on this one. So I do think that we beat Kansas City, we beat the Chargers, we beat the Panthers. I see us going into our bye week at 9-1. That's a beautiful place to be. I see ourselves going to San Francisco and kind of what will be a preview of. I mean, everybody's going to have to come in at that game and play at a high level. So I think the Packers take that San Francisco game. When you look at the rest of our schedule, we have some really easy wins against the Giants and the Redskins, and then you finish out the season at home against the Bears, at the Vikings, and at the Lions. So those last three divisional games have proven. I mean, the divisional games this year have proven to be the most challenging. I think they go 2 of 3, or 1 of 3, 2 of 3 in those last couple of games, and they're going to lose a surprise game. So they could lose to Carolina, they could lose to San Francisco, but I think that they going over to Minnesota and playing the Vikings 2 days before Christmas, that's a tough game to win. And if we're going to talk about Super Bowl predictions while we're at it, apparently, you're going to have to wait. We'll talk about that at another time. So videos are great. Got my coworkers at work watching you now. That's that Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah, so they know sports. They know sports when they see it. I have one comment that the videos are too long. That's all right. I mean, if you can't sit down, if I put them in podcast form, and I'm already churning around some ideas of what I want to do for this channel as it progresses. But now that we're in the thick of the NFL season, I have a newborn baby. Things are a little bit on the back burner, but I changed my intro video. I changed the banner that goes across the bottom, and I really need to figure out a way to do live streams that are not lower quality and a little bit more interactive too. So I'm going to wrap up the video for now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and checking out the video. Check out my next video. Will go live on Friday, so I'll try to post that sometime between 9-10 o'clock in the morning, and then we face off against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday night. Football, waited all day for Sunday night, or it's Tide night. That's that laundry detergent commercial that's going around. You guys probably have seen it. So again, thank you for checking out the video. Thank you for commenting. Thank you guys for supporting this. Absolutely love it. Love all the support. Love the Packer fans. I mean, this is a great, just the fact that we can come together on Tuesday nights, talk about some Packers, give you mainly my thoughts, but you guys can feel free to chime in more about what you think. Absolutely. And until next time, I will see you guys on the internet. Thanks for watching. Now, how do I shut it off? $1 million question right now.